Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. And of course, once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who deserve double honors. And also to the fellow Akim out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth, honesty, and sincerity across the four corners, trying to wake up the remaining hopefully elect. This is Naaman with the DC camp. Boy, if this doesn't get you hot under the collar, as the saying goes. These bastards are pulling out all the stops. I am going to read you Isaiah 10 and 1. And I want you to tell me, does this scripture apply here? Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. To the writers that write grievousness. Ooh, wee. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. This is some bullshit. But how many times have Great Millstone, have the apostles on down told you people, none of this shit, as far as this system the way it's set up, none of this was meant for us. All right. This was not meant for our betterment, our enjoyment, for us to prosper. This place was set up for our punishment. All right, you should have that pilgrim mentality. Or as my man Vin Diesel said in Chronicles of Riddick, he said, I'm just passing through. Listen to this shit. I'm just going to go ahead and play the video. This is some, and no matter what you think about these people, bear in mind, they've already served their time, and they were told how to go about doing things, and they did it. But this jackass governor down there in Florida, whatever you want to call his name, they say it's DeSantis. All right. Like I said, they're pulling out all the stops. This is some straight up bullshit. All right. Let's get to it.
Black male arrested for voter fraud because Governor DeSantis created a new program to crack down on voter fraud. Now, never before seen footage is here.
Watch this shit.
Apparently, I guess you have a warrant?
For what?
I'm not sure. For voters.
It's what it is. I think the agents with FDLE talked to you last week about some voter fraud, voter stuff, when you weren't supposed to be voting, maybe.
I didn't.
They have reduced your bond quite a bit. It's 2 felony charges for voter fraud, but they reduced it to $500 bonds.
On a felony?
Oh my God, man! What?
Unless you know it's some bullshit.
So unfortunately, right now we're gonna have to take you to jail.
I didn't do nothing to nobody, man. Voter fraud. What is voter fraud?
Voting when you're not supposed to, sir. Because of your sex offender status, you're not supposed to be voting.
You don't have an out-of-court appointment. What is wrong with this state, man?
Let's put up the picture of this citizen who was arrested by goons of the state. In never before seen footage obtained by the Tampa Bay Times and Miami Herald, we are now offered a glimpse into this program created by Governor Ron DeSantis out of Florida. Handcuffed in the back seat was 40-year-old Tony Patterson. He stewed over the situation, mentioning how his brother encouraged him to register to vote. I want to remind you of something. The police, they explained up front, they have already reduced your bond. It's down to $500 for each felony. When was the last time you heard of a $500 bond for a felon? They're telling you this is not a serious crime at all. Okay? Patterson said, and I quote, "I thought felons were able to vote. That's why I signed a petition for them. That's what I remember. Why would you let me vote if I wasn't able to vote?" Boom. Exactly. Because they have the technology to check it on the front end. DeSantis has decided to only allow the check on the back end. Why, young brother? Because they wanted to have the scene they just did. Not for you, but to intimidate black folk all across Florida from participating and voting. Now, in other places, like Georgia, for example, if you have a felony conviction on your record, you can still vote. You don't have to even get it restored unless it was a crime of moral turpitude. If you have a felony outside of a moral turpitude classification, once you serve your sentence, once you pay your fee, and you no longer have parole, you can actually vote again in many states. So it can get confusing. There's more. As reported by the Tampa Bay Times, body-worn camera recorded by local police captured the confusion and outrage of Hillsborough County residents who found themselves in handcuffs for casting a ballot following investigations by Governor Ron DeSantis' new Office of Election Crimes and Security. There's more. August 18th, 18 arrests, all right? August 18th, you got 18 arrests conducted hours before Governor DeSantis called a news conference to top his crackdown on alleged voter fraud.
You hear that? So it was already in the
They were
works
carried
before.
out by state police,
Man.
accompanied by local law enforcement. Of the 19 people arrested, 12 were registered Democrats, and at least 13, maybe more, were black. That's according to the investigation. Let's put up this other picture. 55-year-old Ramona Oliver was about to leave for work when police walked up and told her they had a warrant for her arrest. She's just going to work. They got a warrant. She got to go to jail now. Let's go to the video.
So if you can put your hands on your back, please. Oh my God.
So, ultimately, ma'am, you have a warrant? Okay. The warrant. Hold on, listen. I know you caught off guard, I understand. Right? So you have a warrant. It's for voter fraud, okay? Hear me out. It's an ROR. You know what an ROR is?
Oh my God.
You go in, you get booked, and then they're going to release you from booking. But you have a warrant. And it's from FDLE, okay?
Okay.
All right? So I know you're caught off guard, but unfortunately that's how this stuff works, okay?
I'm like, voter fraud. I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but you do have a warrant. That's what it's for.
Let me once again break down the silliness of it all.
God
An
dang.
ROR is known as a signature bond, which means the penalty is so light and the charge is so light, they're not going to require a bond, and they already know it. So before you get to the jail, they have already determined this is some BS. You don't need to be in this court system. We're not worried about you coming back to court. We are allowing you to signature yourself out of the arrest. Once again, these are felonies that these individuals are being charged with. And even if they beat the felonies, those charges will stay on their record until additional action is taken. Let's put up a picture again. Miss Oliver served 18 years in prison on a second-degree murder charge and registered to vote February 14, 2020. She did a time. Months later, she completed another registration form to update her address. And by the way, she was told this is how it was done. After brief eligibility checks by the Department of State, which reports to DeSantis and is responsible for curating all of the ineligible voters according to their verbiage, she was given a voter ID card both times. Both times, she got a voter ID card. Oliver was not removed from the rolls until March 30th of this year. So let me go ahead and make a different.
And this is why I said from the very beginning, don't get caught up in what these people did. They served their time. They were told that they could vote. As he just explained with her, she was issued her voting card. All right. So now this devil on the back end, because you also have to question the timing of this. You got to remember we're less than a month away from the midterms now. And these motherfuckers want to take back the hill. all right, here in D.C. All right, bear that in mind. Let me continue on.
Argument here. Now you're engaged in either contributory negligence by the state, or if you're claiming that this was a crime, that means the state has become a co-conspirator in the criminal activity. That's what this means. There's more. Oliver and 19 others are facing up to 5 years in prison because of this ridiculous program created by the census to do primarily what you just saw, scare people into not voting. All right? They are accused of violating a state law that doesn't allow people convicted of murder or felony sex offenses to automatically be able to vote after they...
Oh boy, why did you even go through the motions? Let me get it. Can't you tell? Fucking assholes. 15th Amendment. What was it for? It says the 15th Amendment guaranteed African American men the right to vote. In addition, the right to vote could not be denied to anyone in the future based on a person's race. Although African American men technically had their voting rights protected, in practice this victory was short-lived. Local and state governments found ways. Let's continue. They found, and that's the thing you have to consider. They're always going to find a way to get around. In other words, they're always going to make an amendment to get around their shit. All right, because we're the object of their hatred. Anyway, the 15th Amendment, let's go to the history of it, to the United States Constitution was ratified on February 3rd, 1870. This is right at the beginning of Reconstruction. The amendment reads, the right of citizens of the United States to vote. Hold on, let me put in this other piece here. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The 15th Amendment guaranteed African American men the right to vote. In addition, the right to vote could not be denied to anyone in the future based on a person's race. But how do we get around that? Although African American men technically had their voting rights protected, in practice this victory was short-lived. Local and state government found ways to weaken the amendment to prevent African Americans from voting. Disenfranchisement is the word used to describe laws passed to prevent people from voting and obtaining rights other citizens have. Is that what's going on now? The actions to prevent African Americans from exercising their civil rights became known as Jim Crow laws. Some examples of Jim Crow laws are poll taxes, a fee required to vote, generally not applied to white voters, literacy tests. The Mississippi test asks applicants to copy a portion of the state constitution at the white administrator's discretion, or owning property as a condition of voting. Jim Crow laws were enforced by election boards or by groups such as the KKK, who intimidated African Americans with violence if they voted or wished to do so. The southern region of the United States made little or no effort to protect the voting rights of African Americans guaranteed by the Constitution. Here we go again. That's why I read this. So what was this all for? That's why we keep telling you, fuck this place. We're not telling you to do anything stupid. It's sad I gotta put that little disclaimer in there. Alright? Be angry but sin not. Always remember that. And always bear in mind 2 Corinthians 6:3. You do nothing, alright, that the body can be blamed for. I'm paraphrasing. Alright? So what was this all for then? Right, it's not worth the paper that it's written on. Another thing we've always told you. Let's continue on.
They complete their sentence. A 2018 state constitutional amendment that restored the right to vote to many felons excluded this group. However, the information did not permeate. They put no emphasis on the education of who could qualify, who would not. Okay? But as the video further supports, the amendment and subsequent actions by state lawmakers caused mass confusion about who was eligible, and the state's voter registration forms offer no clarity at all. They only require a potential voter to swear under penalty of perjury that they are not a felon, or if they are, that their rights have been restored. The forms do not clarify that those with murder convictions don't get automatic restoration of their rights. All right, we got another one. Let's go to 49-year-old Nathan Hart. Here's the video.
No one ever really explained all that much to me. I told the guys when I came out here that I was at the driver's license place getting my new driver's license. Yeah. The guy there asked me, he says, hey, can you vote? He says, hey, are you ready for the vote? I said, no, I'm just a convicted felon. I'm pretty sure I can't. He goes, well, are you still on probation? I said, no. I got off probation like a month ago. He goes, well, then you can probably vote. Hey, just fill out the form, and if you can vote, then they'll let you give you a card. If you can't vote, then you won't. And I'm like, all right. He says, well, just fill out the form, and if you know if they let you vote, then you can. If you don't, then you can't.
And there's your defense. You know what I'm saying? That sounds like a loophole to me.
See?
How sad is this? How sad is this?
The cops know it's
And
bullshit.
it's just the tip of the iceberg. We don't have all the videos. We don't have all of the arrests. We don't even have all of the data, but we have some of it. Towards the end, an officer suggests Mr. Hart may have a loophole defense. The officer was correct in one way, okay? State law says that a voter has to willfully commit the crime. A
Mens
hurdle that
rea.
has forced some prosecutors not to charge ineligible voters. So what does this mean practically? You have to prove what's called mens rea, the criminal intent. In other words, it can't be a mistake. It cannot be an effort of good faith. You cannot be operating under bad advice and still be a criminal in this regard. Only if you knew that you should not have been registering or you should not have been voting, you knew it, and you decided to do it as a criminal conduct issue. That's not the case with any of these charges. All right? Meanwhile, DeSantis only granting voting exemptions for Republican counties. Last Thursday, the governor of Florida, DeSantis, signed an executive order extending early voting days and allowing voters to send mail-in ballots from addresses not listed in their voting records. It also suspends some of the requirements for poll workers. This only goes into effect for about 1 million voters in Lee County, Charlotte, Sarasota. With these counties in particular, more than 450,000 of them are registered as Republicans. Voting rights groups had previously requested to Governor DeSantis extend the statewide voter registration deadline and to add more early voting days across the board. However, DeSantis said the decision to only accommodate 3 counties was based on the collective feedback of the supervisors of elections across the state and at the written request of the supervisors of elections in Charlotte, Lee, and Sarasota. Just so happens this is a large concentration of Republican voters. Just a coincidence, right, Governor? All right, Ben, the insanity of Florida continues to wow me week by week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is deeply infuriating because what is obviously happening is this trap, right? This is a trap that was intentionally set for voters to stop people from voting because, and this is something that Florida's been doing for a very, very long state. And I want to extend this to just beyond Florida because a lot of people will look at red states and say, oh, you know, they keep voting for these terrible people. It's all their own fault. But think about it like this. In Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee, about 8% of the entire voting age population is denied the right to vote due to prior felony voting laws. 8%, that's almost 10%. That's almost 1 out of every 10 people in those states denied the right to vote due to prior felony voting laws. We know in the United States that our criminal justice system is racist and that police focus all their time and energy in racist ways. That this specifically was the Nixon administration, like their officials came out and said that the whole purpose behind the war on drugs was to stop black and brown folks from voting across the country. So then you go back to Florida. In Florida in the 2000 election, they wrongfully said that something where around like, what was it, like 20,000 2,000 black voters were felons, even though they weren't, just to stop them from voting in the 2000 election, right? And this is something that's been going on for a long time. And now the voters of Florida actually voted to say, no, we should get rid of these felony voting laws. People should be allowed to vote, even if they have a felony, if they've done their time, right? And then the state of Florida made the whole implementation of that vote that the people voted for intentionally confusing with the express goal of preventing black voters from feeling comfortable registering to vote. This right here, and I think the timing of this is not a coincidence, right?
Duh.
The election is coming up soon. This is an intimidation tactic. This is a terror tactic to get people to be afraid to vote in Florida. And the unfortunate reality is Republicans are doing this across the country. And so realistically, at a certain point, the blame has to go on the Biden administration and his failure to fundamentally push real action on this front. The Democrats promised that they were going to stop exactly this from happening. And now we're risking losing the Senate specifically because not because voters are going in a right-wing direction, but because right-wing elected officials are stopping people from voting. And we're just in a really terrible position right now.
Well said. Well said. And I concur. The Biden administration, they campaigned on two strong dynamics. One, criminal justice reform, police reform. Two, making sure voting rights in America remain protected. Now you have the opposite of that going down in states all across this country.
And there you have it. There you have it. See? Again, something that we've always told you. This devil. We got to get out of here. Let's see. No, that's Jake. That's not what I want. Oh boy. Let's go to real quick until I think about what I actually wanted. Let's keep it simple. Hey, this is Psalms 7. Let's start at 15. It says, I started 14. Behold, he travaileth with iniquity. Let's go to the heading here. Who are we talking about? In you do I take refuge. Okay, this is prayer. Okay. Okay. All right. Behold, he travaileth with iniquity, and hath conceived mischief, and brought forth falsehood. Falsehood. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head. All right. And his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. All right. So here we are. This motherfucker. A lot of you look at what we do as entertainment, but we're actually out here and we're sincere in what we do and trying to let you know who you're dealing with if you haven't found out already. You know, when we say devil, this is what we're talking about. He's a liar and a deceiver. All right, they are the wicked. There's no redeemable qualities, I'll put it that way, in this so-called white man if he's an Edomite. They were created to be the wicked. Malachi 1st chapter, verses 1 through 4. All right, this is Psalms 119 and 85. The proud, and who is more proud than these Edomites? The proud have digged pits for me, which are not after thy law. It's after his law, his wicked ass laws, not the Most High. All right, let's go back. All right. This is Jeremiah 18:20. Shall evil be recompensed for good? It's the question. For they have digged a pit for my soul. Remember that I stood before thee to speak good for them. Now this is talking about Jake. This is Jeremiah. All right. Asking the Lord, because at one point when you go to chapter 9, I always think personally with those verses 2 and 3 of that chapter, think of these Southwest Airlines commercials. It says, when you want to get away, because that's how Jeremiah, was feeling. And that's the same way we feel about you, Jakes. We're trying to tell you what the hell is going on. You got to understand, this Edomite, this so-called white man, is the Most High's instrument for punishment of us. Let's go to Psalms. Let's see. I'll go straight to the point. 17 and 13. All right, let's go to the top here. In the shadow of your wings. Again, a prayer of David. It says, arise, O Most High Yahweh, disappoint him. Cast him down, our oppressor. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. These chastisements are for us to get us ready for those that make it. All right. And you can go to, Hebrews 12, start at verse 6. All right. This is how you know. See, you got to wonder, some of you will say that have lost faith. You'll question, you'll say, well, why isn't anything happening to this white man? Why is he, if there is a God, why is he allowing this? You got to understand. He's being allowed to do this because there is no hope for him. There is no chance of repentance for him. That's Hebrews 12, chapter 2. That's further down, verses 16 and 17. All right. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11. That should read that. That should help to answer your question. Also, Sirach chapter 5, or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 5, start at verse 4. Another one, 2 Maccabees chapter 6, start at 12 and go on down. This is for these things, and that you can match that up with Hebrews 12 and 6 through, I think, 11th verse, where it explains about why we're being chastised and others aren't. If you can't get it with Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6 through 11, or 12, and then 2 Maccabees 6, start at 12, you can read the whole thing, but the points are in verses 12 through, I believe it's 15 or 16. All right. And it explains to you. In fact, since I said it, let's go there, so I won't leave anybody hanging. Let's go to Hebrews 12 and 6, talking about chastisement. And by contrast, you'll understand, hopefully, that the reason that nothing's happening to them is not a good thing. This is Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6. For whom the Most High loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, the Most High dealeth with you as with sons. Think of your own children. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? Meaning, he's doing all these things to us because he actually gives a damn. 8. But if ye be without chastisement, meaning everything's coming easy to you, you built up this society off of the blood, sweat, and tears of others. All right. And you just think you got it like that. In fact, hey, I'm going to leave it right here and go to another one. Hold on. It actually, let's see. This is Isaiah, This is Isaiah chapter 10. See, there's a scripture for everything. Let's see. This is what the white man, so-called, He's an Edomite. All right, he's a descendant from his, the progenitor of his stock, Esau, the brother of Jacob. It says, it's Isaiah 10, because like I said, he's most proud, right? Isaiah 10 and 13, for he has said, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I have understanding, and I have removed the bounds of the peoples, and have robbed their treasures. And like a valiant man, I have brought down those who sit on thrones. And my hand has found as a nest the riches of the peoples. And as one gathers eggs that are forsaken, have I gathered all the Eretz. And there was none that moved the wing, or that opened the mouth, or chirped. So this is the pride of this motherfucker. All right? He thinks it's a shit. Hey, read Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter. Isaiah 14th chapter. Ezekiel 28th chapter. 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter. This man has a God complex. This is why his fall is going to be worse than any other before him. It's even a scripture that says this deliverance, all right, that we're getting ready to experience is going to be far greater. In fact, to the point where people will forget the first Egypt with the Pharaoh and his army drowning in the Red Sea. Because this is going to be so spectacular. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5. All right. That's what we're waiting on. All right. This is the hope and faith of the saints. All right. When this devil goes down, when he's in chains. Psalms 139. All right. That's what we're wishing for. So, hey, it's not much more I can say. But you know that this devil got to go. He got to go. He got to go. All right. I done lost my spot now. But in any case, we'll get it again. Oh well. Hey, so with that, to the next video. Hey, I hope everyone is edified that viewed this. All right, that's what we do at Great Millstone. And the other Israelite groups that, you know, teach like doctrine. All right. Filter everything through the scriptures. Hey, time is short. 2023 is shaping up to be the shit. All right, not in a good way. All right, so hey, with that, hey, shalom.